Most people wrap Teflon tape without thinking twice, and then wonder why their joints still leak. Today, I'm going to share 7 old-time plumbing tricks that professionals have quietly relied on for 3 decades. These are real, practical shortcuts that actually work when it counts. By the end, you will also hear a bonus tip that can save you from a flood of Teflon tape the right way. Now, this sounds simple, and that is exactly why so many people get it wrong. Here is the rule that old-school plumbers drilled into every apprentice on day one. You always wrap the tape clockwise. If you wrap it the wrong way, the tape bunches up and peels right off the threads the moment you start screwing. The fitting on. You end up with a messy connection that is almost guaranteed to drip. Start your wrap on the second thread from the end of the pipe, not the very first one. Leaving that first thread exposed makes it easier to get the fitting started and prevents little shreds of tape from breaking off into your water line. Pull the tape snug as you go, overlapping each pass by about half the width of the tape. Most pros agree that 3 wraps is the sweet spot for a standard water connection. More than 4, and you risk cracking the female fitting from too much pressure. The second old-time plumbing trick that will save you a ton of frustration is using heat to free stuck threaded connections. If you have ever tried to unscrew an old galvanized nipple or a brass fitting that has been in place for 20 or 30 years, you know exactly what I am talking about. Those threads practically weld themselves together over time thanks to old pipe dope, corrosion, and mineral buildup. 2 pipe wrenches and all your strength sometimes will not budge them. Here is what the old-timers taught. Grab a propane torch and apply the flame directly to the fitting you're trying to remove. Be patient with this. You need to heat the metal slowly and evenly for at least a minute or 2, sometimes longer on really stubborn connections. What happens is the heat softens the hardened pipe dope inside the joint and causes the metal to expand just enough to break the bond. Once you see a tiny wisp of smoke coming from the joint, that is your signal to grab your wrench and give it a firm turn. 9 times out of 10, it will break free. Now, a few important safety notes here. Always keep a flame-resistant cloth nearby to protect surrounding surfaces, especially drywall, wood framing, or insulation. Have a spray bottle of water within arm's reach just in case. This technique works beautifully on water and waste lines, but you must never use it on gas lines or fuel lines. That is a hard rule, no exceptions. Also be aware that if there is any residual water in the pipe, the steam pressure can build up, so open a nearby valve to relieve that pressure first. This trick has been saving plumbers for generations, and it will save you too. The third trick on our list is one of the most legendary old-time plumbing secrets out there, and that is the bread trick for soldering copper pipes with residual water. Here is the problem every plumber has faced at least once. You shut off the water, you drain the line, but there is still a tiny trickle of water seeping through the pipe right where you need to solder. Even a few drops of moisture will keep the joint from reaching the temperature it needs to accept solder. You end up with a cold joint that looks fine on the outside but leaks the moment you turn the water back on. So what did the old-timers do? They stuffed white bread into the pipe. I know it sounds crazy, but it works. Take a piece of plain white bread, remove the crust, and roll the soft center into a small ball. push it about 2 to 3 inches into the pipe upstream of where you need to solder. That little bread plug absorbs the residual water and gives you a dry window of about 30 to 60 seconds to heat the fitting and flow your solder. Once you are done and you turn the water back on, the bread dissolves completely and flushes right out through the nearest faucet. Just make sure you remove the aerator from that faucet first so the breadcrumbs do not clog the screen. Use only plain white bread with no seeds, no whole grain, and no preservative-heavy varieties. Those do not break down as easily and could cause a blockage. This trick has been passed down through plumbing apprenticeships for decades, and it remains one of the most reliable field solutions when you simply cannot get a pipe bone dry. By the way, if you're finding this advice helpful, you should know it's just a small sample of what I've put into my new guide, The Ultimate Plumbing Playbook. It's packed with step-by-step instructions for hundreds of repairs that can save you thousands. To grab your copy, you can scan the QR code on the screen right now, or just use the first link in the description below. All right, let's continue. The fourth old-time trick is one you will not believe until you try it, and that is resizing an out-of-round copper pipe with nothing more than an adjustable wrench. This is a problem that comes up more often than people realize. You cut a piece of copper pipe, or maybe you are working with an existing line that has been bumped or dented, and when you go to slide a fitting onto it, the fitting just will not go on. The pipe looks fine to the naked eye, but it is ever so slightly oval instead of perfectly round. That tiny distortion is enough to stop a fitting dead in its tracks. Here is the fix the old-timers used. Take your adjustable wrench and open the jaws to match the outside diameter of the pipe. Now gently slide the wrench over the end of the pipe and rotate it as you go. What you are doing is using the flat, parallel jaws of the wrench as a reshaping tool. Each rotation gently presses the pipe back toward its original round profile. After 3 or 4 passes, try the fitting again. In most cases, it slides right on like it was never a problem. This works on 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, and even 1 inch copper. Just be careful not to crank the wrench jaws too tight, because you can actually crush the pipe wall if you overdo it. You want light, even pressure with smooth rotations. This trick is especially handy when you are working on a repair in a tight spot where you cannot easily cut out the damaged section and replace it. It costs you nothing, takes about 15 seconds, and it saves a trip to the hardware store. Keep an adjustable wrench in your plumbing kit, and you will use this trick more than you would ever expect. The fifth old-time trick is one that will genuinely surprise you, and it is using a piece of string or mason line to cut plastic pipe in a tight space where no saw can reach. Picture this scenario. Most people would start tearing apart the surrounding structure just to create access, and that turns a 30-minute repair into a full weekend project. The old-timers had a much simpler solution. Take a length of mason line, which the friction generates enough heat to melt through the plastic pipe cleanly. It does take some patience. Depending on the pipe size, you might need 3 to 5 minutes of steady back and forth motion on a 2-inch pipe. No sparks, and no risk of damaging the surrounding framing or wiring. When you are done, clean up the cut edge with a piece of sandpaper or a utility knife to remove any burrs before gluing your new fitting. This trick works only on plastic pipe, not on copper or cast iron. But for those impossible tight spots where you are working with PVC or ABS, it is an absolute lifesaver that has been used on job sites for longer than most people realize. The sixth old-time plumbing trick is the classic vinegar soak to restore pressure in a shower head that has slowed down to a trickle. Over time, mineral deposits build up inside the tiny nozzle holes of your shower head. This is especially common in areas with hard water, where calcium and lime gradually clog those openings until your once powerful shower feels like a gentle mist. A lot of folks assume the shower head is worn out and go buy a new one, but the old-timers knew you could bring it back to life with something you probably already have in your kitchen. Fill a plastic bag with plain white vinegar, enough to fully submerge the shower head face. Slip the bag over the shower head and secure it with a rubber band or a twist tie so the nozzle plate is soaking in the vinegar. Leave it overnight, or at least 8 to 12 hours. The acetic acid in the vinegar dissolves those mineral deposits without harming the finish on your shower head. The next morning, remove the bag, turn on the shower, and let it run for a minute to flush out the loosened debris. You will be amazed at the difference. In most cases, you get back that full, even spray pattern you thought was gone forever. For really stubborn buildup, you can remove the shower head entirely and soak the whole thing in a bowl of vinegar for a full 24 hours. A retired plumber I know has been recommending this trick for over 30 years, and he says it works on about 95% of slow shower heads. Before you spend $15 to $40 on a replacement, give this 5-minute setup a try. It costs almost nothing, and the results are hard to argue with. The seventh and final old-time trick on our list is the piggyback shutoff valve, and it is a real gem for, those little valves underneath your sinks and behind your toilets? They are supposed to let you shut off the water to that one fixture without affecting the rest of the house. The problem is, these valves are notorious for failing, especially if they have not been turned in years. Mineral buildup and corrosion freeze the internal parts in place. You go to turn the handle and it either will not budge or it turns, but the water keeps flowing. Most people assume the only fix is to replace the entire valve, which usually means shutting off the main water supply, cutting pipe, and soldering or using compression fittings to install a new one. That is a real project, especially in a cramped vanity cabinet. The old-timers had a smarter approach. You can install what is called a piggyback shutoff valve right on top of the existing one. These are readily available at most home improvement stores for around $10 to $15. You simply disconnect the supply line from the old valve, thread or connect the piggyback valve onto the outlet of the old one, and then reconnect your supply line to the new valve. The old valve stays in place, and you do not have to touch any pipe. If the existing valve still closes most of the way, you might not even need to shut off the main water supply. Just set a small container underneath to catch any trickle while you make the swap. The whole job takes about 10 minutes, and the only tools you need are an adjustable wrench and a pair of pliers. It is also a great idea to pick up a new braided stainless steel supply line while you are at the store, since you already have the old one disconnected. Those braided lines are far more reliable than the older rubber or plastic ones, and they only cost a few dollars. And now for the bonus tip that professional plumbers swear by. This one has nothing to do with tools or fittings, and everything to do with preventing a disaster before it starts. Once or twice a year, walk through your house and exercise every shutoff valve you can find. That means turning each one fully closed and then fully open again. Under your sinks, behind your toilets, at your washing machine, at your water heater, and especially your main shutoff valve. The reason is simple. When a valve sits in the same position for years without being moved, the internal seals and stem packing dry out, corrode, and eventually seize up. Then when you actually need that valve in an emergency, like a burst supply line, flooding your bathroom at 2 a.m, it will not turn. It takes about 15 minutes twice a year, and it could be the difference between a quick shutoff and thousands of dollars in water damage to your floors, ceilings, and belongings. Old school plumbers made this a habit and passed it along to their apprentices as one of the most important maintenance rituals in the trade. It is free, it is fast, and it might just save your home someday. Before you go, I want to make sure you know about my complete guide, the Ultimate Plumbing Playbook. It goes way deeper than we can in a single video, with 85 pages covering everything from clearing any clog to replacing your own water heater. If you want to stop wasting money on simple fixes, this book is for you. Just scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description to get your copy. Thanks for watching. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one.